Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 17 Beta 5 and iOS 17 Public Beta 3 have been out for a few days, and there's even more new features to talk about since the iOS 17 Beta 5 is out. What's new video was released. So we'll go over that. We'll also talk about the overall experience since I've been using it full time on my 14 Pro Max and iPad Pro, and we'll also talk about your experience based off the YouTube community poll, where at the time of this video, there's over 19,000 votes and 260 comments. So we'll talk about all of that, the overall experience, and more toward the end of the video. First, though, we need to talk about a couple news items. The first one has to do with the upcoming Apple event. Many have been asking about this. I had a video earlier last week about it, but we're expecting the iPhone 15 event on September 12th or 13th. The 12th seems more likely as it's a Tuesday. That's when they typically do that. They send out the invites. Many have been asking me about that as well in my DMs on Twitter and other places, when that will be. They'll send out those invites typically the week before. So normally we'll see them probably in the first week of September, with the event the second week of September. So hopefully we'll see that very, very soon. Also, there's been a lot of people that have been trying to update to iOS 17 Beta 5 or Public Beta 3, and they keep getting an error when they go into their settings, general, and then software update. This will pop up with an error. I'm updated here, and if we look for the update on iOS 17 Beta 4 or Public Beta 2, you'll see it's acting a little odd, but it does seem to be working this time, but it's just sort of refreshing on its own for some reason. So there's definitely some issues going on there. Also, one thing I wanted to mention is macOS Ventura 13.5 apparently has an issue where you can't change any location services settings. So this is another bug we're seeing, which makes me think maybe we'll see iOS 16.6.1 or 16.7 sooner than we expect, with maybe an update to macOS 13.5.1 or 13.6. We'll talk more about that a little bit later, but let's first talk about new features. Now, the first thing is, as far as new features, is AirDrop has a new sound. I actually forgot to check this in the initial What's New video and had that on my notes, but if we go to AirDrop something, so we'll go from the right device on Beta 5 to Beta 4 here on the left, and maybe we'll AirDrop this particular thing here. Just go in, AirDrop, and then we'll bring it close, and we'll bring it in like this. And you'll see the animation is the same, but let me turn on the sound here. We'll turn it up and do that again, and I'll move my microphone. You have a bit of a new sound if you just go and bring them together like I showed you without going into AirDrop itself. We have a share button now. Now they've actually added name drop to Apple Watch. It's in the code but not active yet, and you can see that here on Twitter. Aaron P613 posted what the animation looks like, where you can bring an iPhone and an Apple Watch together or two Apple Watches together. So this is something that doesn't appear to be active yet but should be in the future. Shazam gets an update with a new animation, so if we scroll down, tap on Shazam in the control center, and then play a song from a different phone, you can see the new animation there. It pops in and has a nice look to it overall, and then just goes away into the top. We can go into it and then go right to the song within Apple Music. So it's a really nice update here. And then of course we could send that to our HomePod or whatever we have nearby. There's some updates with the phone as well, and many have been asking about this. So if I place a call to myself with a different phone here, I'll use a Pixel Fold. And if we answer the call, we'll tap accept, and you'll see that the end button is in the bottom right. Now, this is not a departure from previous iOS 17 betas, but it is something that is new here that people didn't expect. So I just wanted to clarify that it's here. Also, there's some updates as far as voicemail goes. If you're using the live voicemail feature, so if I call from my other phone, and you'll see it's actually transcribing live voicemail. However, the default live voicemail message has been updated, where it says your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up. So it's a general, generic default message, but you'll see, again, it's working to live transcribe my voicemail in real time as well. FaceTime gets an update as well. Some people are seeing an all-new splash screen. I'm actually not seeing that. However, they've changed some of the gestures. So if I make a call to myself, and my 13 Pro Max that I made the call with to my 14 Pro Max is actually showing that little message that I said before, where it says touch and hold your image to send a reaction like thumbs up or heart. You can also use hand gestures like a thumbs up. So if I press and hold on my image here, we have the option for heart and thumbs up and more. And the thumbs up has changed. The overall icon used to have blue behind it. If I give a heart here, you'll see them in the screen. Thumbs down, again, it's changed. We've got some balloons. We've got fireworks, the laser light show, all the things you get in messages work here. So storm clouds and again, thumbs up. So if you want to use those, just press and hold, or you can use gestures like thumbs up and more. Another change is within messages. If you're using voice to text, you'll see a blue line behind the text, but it's more prominent than it was before. Before this, it wasn't as noticeable, and it sort of elongates and then shrinks behind what you're speaking about. So you'll see it actually keeping up, and then if I stop speaking, the line shrinks behind it and then continues to highlight. So it's just a nice little visual update. Also within messages, if you're texting someone that's using Android or doesn't have iMessage enabled, you won't have the option for check-in anymore. And when you go into the check-in options within messages, you have limited and full, but now it has sample data, where it says sample data here. And if you switch between limited and full, it changes, giving you an idea of how it works. Now, if we lock the phone and then take a look at the previous beta, you'll see that the shortcut widget has been updated. So it's a nice visual update, not a huge deal, but it's easier to see now. Within the Shortcuts app, if you create an action for Safari and then scroll down to where it says web, they've updated the icons to better represent what you're creating. So Search Web has the little search icon there, get details of article, filter article, open URLs, and get article using Safari Reader. Those have all been updated with new icons. Maybe we'll see this in the future with additional actions as well. Within settings under your name and then iCloud, we now have a little pop-up that says do more with iCloud, free up storage, review recommended settings, and learn more about iCloud. So it's not a huge change, but it pops up there to let you know you have different options. And then of course you can go into that and then free up some of your storage. On the home screen where we have widgets, the clock widget, calendar, and even reminders sometimes doesn't show as pure black. So this may be changed over time, as we used to have a translucent clock and we don't any longer. So hopefully they update this a little bit, as this isn't great if they're a little bit gray instead of pure black. For maybe when you're using dark mode, it will actually use more power. Under privacy and security, if we go to location services, Apple has removed Safari from here. If we look at the previous beta, we have Safari websites, and instead they've kept it completely under the Safari options. So we don't have it here. As we scroll down, they've just removed it altogether, and it can be found under your Safari settings. That was in previous betas, but they hadn't removed it from the other location. So you'll see down at the bottom of Safari, we have locations, and then we can remove it individually. If we go into Maps, tap our account, and under Offline Maps, under Optimize Storage, we now have a description which says automatically remove downloaded maps you haven't used in a while. Also, only use offline maps says use downloaded maps even when you have an internet connection. So that's similar to before, but they've changed it around and given their own descriptors. There were a couple of splash screens I wanted to mention. One I mentioned before with Apple Music. The first time you go into it, you may see Welcome to Apple Music and also what's new in Apple Music. So these popped up for me on a different device, not on my main device. Also, the first time you open books, there's a new splash screen in Beta 5 where it says, Welcome to Apple Books. Find great books and audiobooks you can read or listen to anywhere on all your Apple devices. Also within screen time, if you're using screen distance, where you turn this on and if your phone's too close, it will notify you. It used to just say your phone was too close. Now it actually says iPhone may be too close. Also on iPad, there was a new arrow that you can see right there that popped up to show me that I'm covering the Face ID sensor. If I take my finger off of it, it disappears and then I can unlock the iPad. But again, if I cover it and then unlock, it will give me a little arrow that's in a new box now on iPadoS. Now, as far as the overall camera, let's go ahead and take a look at it since we have Beta 5 on this device, Beta 4 re-release on the other device, both 14 Pro Maxes. I'll take a few photos so you can take a look here and see if the processing has changed. Some people have actually said it's improved quite a bit this time around. So let me know what you think with these few different photos. Does it look better with Beta 5 compared to Beta 4? It definitely seems Apple is working on this a little bit though. As far as the overall experience, it's pretty remarkable that it's great for some and terrible for others. For me in particular, it hasn't been great. Others have said it's the best beta ever. So I haven't seen a whole lot of bugs that have been fixed, and looking online, I haven't seen many people report that they're fixed either. For example, the Magic Keyboard stops working still on the iPad for some people. I've had a lot of lockups and freeze-ups, completely freezing the phone where I had to hard reboot it. I've also had issues with Private Relay just yesterday where it just stopped all of a sudden and I couldn't get to any website. I had to disable it, then it worked. So definitely some issues there. I've heard quite a few people say there's issues with third-party apps with things like WhatsApp freezing and locking up or crashing. I've heard shortcuts crashing quite a bit for some people. In particular, I'm seeing issues where voicemail just shows up and it says I have 2 of them, but it doesn't show in my voicemail at all. I'm seeing that over and over and hearing that from others. Of course, there's still that notification bug where it just sort of pops in, so that's definitely an issue. And then also, there's definitely some issues for some people with CarPlay not working. However, it works fine for me wirelessly, but sometimes music will crash on it. You can't clear the cache anymore by doing volume up, volume down, pressing and holding the power sleep wake button. That doesn't clear the cache out or the RAM. That's an issue for some people. And additionally, I've heard of people's alarms failing, whether it's sleep alarms or just alarms in general, which is a major issue if you're using it on your main phone. There's still bugs here and there. I've seen some weird bugs with connectivity on iPad, and overall connectivity actually has been better for me on Beta 5, but still is an issue. So there's definitely some odd things going on. As far as the release notes, I talked a little bit about this in the initial What's New video. There's some good things in here, but definitely even more known issues. So still quite a few things they need to fix before it's released to the public. So again, make sure you're reporting feedback if you're having issues, but there's definitely some bugs in this one. As far as overall performance is okay when it's not freezing up, so ProMotion seems to be fine. Some people have reported it's better than ever, but in general, I've had a lot of weird freeze-ups, lockups, swiping out of apps sometimes stutters, lots of weird issues. I've even had to hard reset my phone the other day. I've noticed this on every device I'm actually running this on, so maybe I'll do a full reset on this device soon as it's really acting poorly, and we'll talk about that with battery life in a moment. It's also unbelievably hot when wireless charging in my car. In fact, I stopped doing it because it's so hot I can barely touch the phone. There's definitely something odd going on with this phone, and it may just be hardware related. It's also quite warm just filming this video right now, so if we take a look in the thermal camera, over the hottest part of the phone, we're at about 38 degrees Celsius or 102 degrees Fahrenheit. That's incredibly warm compared to what I've seen before. So for some reason, it's getting overly warm and just not really lasting throughout the day as far as battery life. You'll see my battery's down to 53%. In fact, yesterday at 5 p.m., I took this off the charger at about 10:30 a.m. or 10 a.m., and at 5 p.m. I had to recharge it again. I barely used it. So if we go to battery health and charging, I'm at 90% with 267 cycles according to Coconut Battery. According to Coconut Battery, I'm at 91%, but it's still pretty terrible battery life. If we take a look at yesterday, and you'll see it's giving me a suggestion of auto lock, which I turned off for the video, but I typically have on. Yesterday, I had 3 hours and 42 minutes of screen active time at 3 hours and 55 minutes of screen idle time. That's including recharging it. So it was way down. I had to recharge it. The day before, I used over 100% battery life and only had about 1 hour and 53 minutes of screen active time. It's been pretty terrible, and Twitter's using a ton of power, and it shouldn't be. I have background activity turned off. So there's some weird issues for me. Other people have sent in their battery life as well. And thanks to Abhishek for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 11 Pro Max with 95% battery health. He had 2 hours and 17 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 23 minutes of screen off time, and used about 55% of his battery. So battery life overall in this beta, at least for most people I've talked to, is pretty terrible. Hopefully it will get better in the future. Apple, of course, is going to refine that before it's released to the public. If they don't, they're going to hear from a lot of different people. So if you're wondering if you should install iOS 17 Beta 5, well, if you're already a beta tester, absolutely update, as you'll get more features and you're testing it anyway. That sort of comes with what you're doing. However, if you haven't installed the beta yet, I'd probably wait till the next version at this point just to see if it improves, as it's pretty poor as far as battery. And if you're concerned about heat and performance, I would probably wait a little bit. However, many people say it's pretty great. As far as iOS 17 Beta 6 and iOS 17 Public Beta 4, I would expect that as soon as this coming week on the 15th. Typically, Apple releases them weekly at this point. Past Beta 5, we'll get Beta 6 the next week, maybe 7 and 8 with a release candidate, and then a final release probably around the 18th of September if that Apple event is on the 12th. So that's what I would expect. We could also see iOS 16.6.1, as I mentioned earlier in the video, or iOS 16.7. Normally, we would have the last version of iOS 16.7 RC in September, but if there are issues, they could maybe issue in iOS 16.6.1. So that seems likely if they're having major issues. If not, we'll see 16.7 in September probably. Now, as far as the YouTube community poll, let's take a look at some of your comments. TechPro985 says, worst beta so far, developer beta 5, worse than beta 1, extremely slow, Safari and shortcuts crashing, and iPhone 13 overheating like crazy. Also took forever to update after running into issues with unable to check for update and then saying iOS is up to date when it wasn't. Brent Zero said, my sleep alarm is completely broken. I thought no alarm was going to go off last night, but I always set an extra alarm for redundancy, and this was the only alarm that went off. When sleep mode was on, there was the button with no alarm in it, and after pressing it and changing the schedule, it still didn't change. Yes, the button alarm was on. I then used my redundancy alarm and this showed on the home screen. I tried rebooting both of my devices, but nothing as the result. iPhone 13 with Apple Watch Series 7 Beta 5. Zomboy4313 says, I'm using iOS 17 Beta 5 and it's going well. Battery life and heat has improved, but I do wish the notification bug gets fixed. The lock screen spotlight bug has now been fixed, which is nice, but the keyboard's behavior has been reverted, causing the lock screen password to not show when powering on my iPhone. Scott Olmstead said, iOS 17 Beta 5 on iPhone 14 Pro Max. Most things seem to be better. Notifications bug is still there, but now I'm having tons of crashes with the shortcut app. Almost any automation I try to make will crash at some point in the process of making it. Maximus Prime said, I'm actually of the opinion that the iOS 17 betas have been more stable than the launch of iOS 16. I even noticed better battery life on the betas over iOS 16. And so that's everything with iOS 17 Beta 5 and iOS 17 Public Beta 3. If you found anything more, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below as far as features or your overall experience. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.